This is the GTN Show. Welcome.
Well, this week we've got the exciting news of the Zwift Specialized Triathlon team and the new Major League Triathlon Series that's about to start.
And we're also going to be discussing a new study into the effects of coffee as opposed to just caffeine on our performance.
Starting off this week, there's some exciting news if you're a fan of indoor training, as Zwift have combined with Specialized to launch a Triathlon Academy, and this time it's actually aimed at age groupers.
Yeah, so this is something that they've done before, but in the cycling world, where they selected a couple of athletes for pro cycling teams.
Well, this is going to be 4 athletes that will get the chance to be supported by Specialized and Zwift together. I think there's going to be a lot of people applying for this. It's open already. You've got until the 18th of March to apply. Now, there's a few criteria. You have to be up to a level 10 on Zwift, and then you have to be an age grouper. They're not trying this time to get age groupers to become pros. They're trying to support you to get onto the podium in Kona, and they've kept the criteria quite open, so it's not as straightforward as, you know, the fastest swimmer, runner. They're not going to put you through the same system like they did for Zwift cycling. It's a little bit more of looking for the story from what I gather.
But you're probably wondering what you get from it. So you get a brand new sparkly Specialized Shiv TT bike, you get their road shoes, you get their Specialized Evade helmet.
All their racing apparel as well.
Yeah, and you even, for one of your select races that you're trying to qualify for Kona in, they'll give you a $1,500 budget to spend basically on getting there, your entry fee. And then for Kona itself, you have your flights, your entry fee, your accommodation, everything sorted out for you.
Yeah, and it's not just purely the money when you get there. They're helping you on the journey. So they're going to give you a smart trainer and a smart treadmill if you don't already have one. And then I think even more valuable, sort of money can't buy, you're going to get support from the pros. So Tim Don and Lucy Charles are going to be on the sort of coaching panel, and they're actually going to help coach you towards those goals.
Yeah, but if you don't get selected onto the team, there is still a chance for you, because they're going to be trying to create a Zwift triathlon community where they'll be having training plans and like a coaching setup basically.
Yeah, and they're going to, ahead of certain races, they're going to get tips from pros who've won those races before to give sort of inside information. There's going to be tips on nutrition, and they're trying to make that real community feel indoors, and with the weather like it is in the UK at the moment, I think that could be the way forwards. Well, moving on to professional racing, the Major League Triathlon, the only league racing in the United States, has just announced the lineup for their 8 teams. It's the 3rd year this event's been going on, and they've got a pretty hot lineup. Now, these athletes compete over 4 events starting in Atlantic City, Tampa, Vail Valley and Charlotte. Yeah,
and they've really stepped it up a level this year. They've just announced the teams, and the teams do consist of 2 men, 2 women. It's 8 teams in total, and they've got the likes of Ben Canute, Thomas Eferis, Paula Finlay, Aaron Royal, Charlotte Machine. So it really is going to be a fast and furious event. It takes place over a 300-metre swim, a 4-mile bike and a 1-mile run.
Yeah, and they're using pop-up venues, so it's very much trying to get the crowd there, and, you know, hence why they're going to the big cities as well. And I think we're going to see this type of event really grow in popularity, because later this year we see the first qualifying events for Tokyo 2020, with the mixed relay being in for the first time in triathlon. So it's definitely one to keep an eye on.
Right, so last week we mentioned the Triathlon Series board game, and this turned up on our doorstep this week. So trying to give it a go.
Yeah, I mean, it does look quite exciting. I've already got a heart rate on mine, but I'm not really sure what I'm doing. I thought I was ahead of you, but I think you've cheated there, Mark.
I have no idea. Should probably read the instructions, eh? Right, we have our coffee at the ready, and that is because we're looking at a recent study that looked into the effects of coffee on our performance as opposed to pure caffeine.
Now, well, scientists wanted to find out whether a cup of coffee could improve your workout or improve your performance in a race. And they weren't just looking at the immediate effects or the placebo effects of coffee. They were going a little bit deeper, and they were seeing how it varied from person to person, and more importantly, looking at how people's genes vary, obviously, and whether that can affect the effect you have from the coffee.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, very few of us are popping caffeine tablets or maybe even just having a gel with caffeine in. Well, actually, probably a lot of us. going for a brew or a coffee on the morning of the race. So it's quite important we look at how that affects us. I mean, what do you do?
Well, interestingly, I, like, as a professional, like, full-time athlete in pentathlon, I hated coffee. I love the smell of it, so I'd sniff everyone else's coffee, but I couldn't drink it. And I used to get, like, it was a long day of competing, and the coach would try and give me, like, an espresso, and I was like, oh, I can't drink that. So I actually stuck to caffeine gels, and again, I think for me it was the placebo effect. But since getting into cycling and then triathlon, I now love coffee, and I've started using it in my races, but I've never actually used Pro Plus because I don't like the idea of taking a tablet. But what about yourself?
Well, yeah, I've also played with the idea of cutting caffeine out and then introducing on the day of a race, so you really get that kick rather than kind of getting used to the effects of caffeine and coffee. You sort of really get that performance enhancement, or so they say, and again it might be that placebo effect. So it is a really interesting topic, and they have found that obviously it does have a performance benefit, but for certain people, some people didn't have the same effect. So they looked into this, and it turns out it is down to genes. But admittedly, they said there's a lot more they need to look into this in terms of gender and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, when I did start to get into coffee, it was alongside cycling, and I always had my coffee at the midway break. And I don't know if it was just the fact that I knew I was on the way home, but like I was so much quicker in the second half, and also I would talk a lot faster, which is probably now because I've had a coffee. So it does still affect me.
Well, yeah, they do say in this study they did say it takes up to 30 minutes to 75 minutes for the caffeine effect or the coffee to kick in. See, a lot of people do take a gel maybe 5 minutes before a race start, and
that's got to be placebo then, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
Well, I think basically we're just going to have to carry on drinking coffee to find out. In other news, the Challenge family are excited to announce that Challenge Geraardsbergen is going to include the inaugural military championship. So it's a 70.3 event of middle distance triathlon, and within their competition they're having a specific event that's solely for military members.
I think this is going to be quite a tough competition. I've actually raced some of the guys from the army, and those guys are fast, and I do actually know the army use triathlon to improve fitness within the ranks, and they have noted that this isn't going to replace the CISM World Military Triathlon Championships. They're still taking place in June in Sweden, and that is an Olympic distance event. Right, lastly, with the WTS series kicking off this weekend with Abu Dhabi, we have some of the top athletes lining up, but one person that will be missing is Alistair Brownlee. He's just announced on Twitter that he's had to withdraw, sadly, due to pulling his calf.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit more pressure on the athletes at this time of year than sometimes, because the Commonwealth Games are coming up in April, and I know that Alistair's got his mind, set on really performing well out there, and his brother was just about to head off, I think yesterday or very shortly, out to the Gold Coast to start training already. So athletes have maybe got that focus as well as the World Tour Series, so it's interesting to see how they're going to balance that moving forwards.
Okay, for the weekly poll, last week we asked you whether you clip your bike shoes on to your bike for transition or whether you put your bike shoes on in T1. And the results are really quite interesting and very close. In last place, it was putting your shoes on in transition with 45%. And then it came out on top with clipping your shoes onto your bike, 55%.
Yeah, I was surprised it was that around. I thought actually it'd be the other, and maybe that's just because personally I do the other way. I don't want to run through transition with my socks on, getting them wet, and obviously I do longer distance. So it'd be interesting to know, what distance these, the voters do as well.
Yeah, and actually how they are doing their transitions. So with the bike shoes already clipped in, are they doing a flying mount? I think it's been really interesting. But for this week's poll, we thought we'd chat about the finish line, and rulings have changed quite a lot here. So in Ironman specifically, they changed the rule as to you being able to run down the finish line with your child or your family, with the risk of you getting in the way of people sprinting for the finish. And we actually had a really interesting comment.
Yeah, well, this one actually came from one of the clips we had last week and last week's show from Waxy Mud, saying, interesting enough, with more and more race organisers banning smaller family members accompanying us through the finish chute, I'm surprised to see other organisers placing a pair of women with a mass of balloons each to run down the finish chute behind the winners. Surely that has to provoke some sort of problems if it's coming down to a close finish. Odd how different organisers allow different things, no common rule or logic.
Well, you got Phuket Triathlon, you got an elephant going down the finish line.
Well, that's going to take up some room, isn't it?
Well, for this week's poll then, we thought it'd be interesting to ask you sort of your ideal finish shoot options. Should you be allowed to take your family and friends down the finish line with you? Should it only be race officials with balloons? Or should it be no one's allowed whatsoever, or other? So if it is other, drop those suggestions in the comments below. And to enter that poll, just click on the link above Heather's head. Well, thanks to our partners at Park Tool, we have a few gifts to give away. We have the Chain Gang cleaning system here.
And we've got this lovely array of brushes.
Yeah, so we've got 5 of these sets to give away. So in this box, we actually have the chain cleaning system. We also have the chain cleaning fluid and a little brush set for cleaning the gears. Now, I have to say, it actually took me quite a while to get onto using one of these, but I have to say, they're really quite impressive. Get your chain very thoroughly clean using a series of brushes within the system, and just helps with general shifting of the gears and prolongs the life of them.
And well, for the more general side of your bike, you've got this brush here that will just clean the frame generally. You've got some great ones for getting into the nooks and crannies, so in between your brake levers. This one will get nicely in between your spokes to keep your wheels nice and clean. So there's basically no excuse to have a filthy bike at this time of year. And if you like the look of this and you want your chance to get your hands on some yourself, then just click on the link in the description below.
Now for the race news, and this weekend we had the first Xterra of 2018. It was Xterra South Africa, taking place just outside of Cape Town in Grabouw. And we were set to see Sebastian Kienle doing the race, but I did actually see on social media a couple of weeks ago, he was out riding with Bradley Weiss, the current Xterra world champion, and he suffered a little crash. I saw a few scrapes on his arm, and unfortunately, just a couple of days before the race, Sebastian announced that he wouldn't be racing because he'd in fact suffered some bruised ribs as well. So in the men's race, Bradley Weiss came at the water in 3rd, but as you'd suspect, he took the lead fairly early on, settled into a rhythm and took the win overall.
Well, on the women's side, it was a similar situation. Karina Vals of South Africa came out the water first and she kept the lead for the whole race. Ended up winning by almost 15 minutes in a time of 2 hours 51. Over in Australia on the weekend, it was the Luke Harrop Memorial Gold Coast Triathlon, which was supposed to be a sprint distance triathlon, but sadly, due to poor weather, which affected the water quality, it got shortened to a duathlon. So it was a 2.5k run, followed by a 20k bike ride, and then a 5k run. It was a competitive event, especially with the Commonwealth coming round the corner, and it was won on the women's side by Emma Jeffcoat.
And on the men's side, it was Luke William and Matt Hauser that really put on quite a good display, with Luke Burns also pushing them to the limit. So he really proved himself as a talent to watch for 2018. But it was Luke William that took the win, and then Matt Hauser in 2nd. Now, recently we've spoken a lot about the ITU Winter Triathlon, and this weekend it was the S3 class in Quebec. Now, this is the 5th edition of the event in Quebec, and it was absolutely dominated by the Canadians on the men's side. It was the 3-time winner that actually took the win again, Maxime Leboeuf.
Well, on the women's side, the best that Canada could do was the bronze, but actually the win went to Lovisa Modig of Sweden. Well, moving back to Zwift, last weekend they held the national championships for 15 different countries, and they used the Watopia Volcano climb course, which was 3 laps for the men's race, 2 for the women. Now, athletes had to register beforehand, and you probably won't be surprised to hear that there were quite a few triathletes it caught the eye of, none other than Lucy Charles, who admittedly did fairly well.
Yeah, I believe from her social media she may have taken the win, but we'll have to see. And in the Canadian national champs, no surprises, it was Lionel Sanders that took interest in the race. And again, from his social media, he suggested that he came 4th, but like you said, Heather, it all has to be verified. We need to check that everyone's watts per kilo are correct. But Lionel did actually post a picture of his weight just to kind of, confirm that what he put down was correct.
Yeah, well, talking of Lionel, we know how much that he loves to train indoors. So there was an indoor triathlon in southern Ontario, McMaster University, which was right up his street, but it was a little bit different. It was the 3 separate phases, and you had to go as far as you could in 15 minutes. So in the 15-minute swim, he managed to complete 1,230 metres in the pool. And then for the bike, a static bike on the indoor track, he managed to hold an average of 419 watts. And then at the end of all of this, he still ran a 5k in 15 minutes 20. So I guess they let him have the extra 20 seconds just to finish off a round 5k, and they converted it all to points. And no surprise, Lionel Sanders ran away with the win.
Now time for the GTN Tribe, and this week it comes from Poland. It is the GT Rat triathlon team, and it was sent in by Mikhail Wojcielo, and well, hasn't sent in a whole lot of information, but a lot of photos.
There's some really great pictures here, and they're pretty good at posing, this team. There's some great cycling kit pictures there with the sea in the background.
I like this photo.
And it looks like they train in all conditions. Here we are in the UK complaining there's a little bit of snow, but it definitely doesn't stop GT Rat. They're out on their mountain bikes, or maybe even fat bikes, heading off what looks like a frozen lake, doesn't it? I mean, it's a huge expanse.
Amazing. And they even say on this photo here, they're doing some running drills over hurdles in the snow, and they're saying winter, question mark.
Yeah, that's impressive. Keeping up the core drills to whatever the weather.
And a very successful team, it would appear. They've got, well, a photo here with medals around almost every person's neck.
And a table full of medals as well. I mean, there's
amazing.
several of these pictures. And
yeah.
Not only are they good at posing, they're good at winning medals, it looks like.
Yeah, and here they are having fun, sort of swimming in a quarry sort of lake area.
That could be an open water session, or it could be a recovery session, I reckon.
Group ride, big group ride here going on. Again, looks awesome, the area they're training in.
I know. Getting all ages involved as well, as even a little, whether supporter or participant, but in team kit in this photo. And if it does get too bad outside, they still have some indoor training options. So they've got a bit of a group session, a mixture of spin bikes and turbo trainers.
And here they're actually, I believe they're training for Ironman Barcelona. So they've got footage, it looks like from a GoPro, of them following that session on their turbos whilst watching the GoPro footage.
Yeah, it's
amazing idea.
Pretty cool. Well, we do love to look at your photos, watch your videos, and know more about your club. So if you are watching this and you think, yeah, I want to have my club on the map anywhere in the world, we would love to hear from you. So send us in as much info as you have.
Now it's time for the Caption competition, where you get an opportunity to win a GTN swimming cap. And last week we had quite a funny photo from Challenge Roth of kind of a clown with a whip of some sort.
Very bizarre, but there were some great suggestions, and quite different this week. The first one we've got and we've chosen here is from Ryan Addison, and he says, "Hurry up, stop clowning around."
Very good. And one from Matt Blood, and this was aimed at me. It said, "Where's Mark? Need to whip him for his pronunciation of Geelong." I mean, Geelong. Very good.
You got a bit of stick for that last week, by the way. But our winner is Peter Hitchin with this caption. "I think the organisers misunderstood my request for a chain whip tool." I like it.
Peter, you are the winner of the GTN cap. But for your opportunity to win another one, we have this photo here from the ITU race in Cape Town.
Well, this is a picture of Yao Pereira doing what looks like a press-up just ahead of the swim race. Not exactly sure why, maybe he just wants to look good for the photos, but we want to know your caption suggestions, so please leave them in the comments below. Well, now it's time for the GTN Pain Cave, and we've picked 3 of our favourites for this week. Our first one is in for Mara Maui, and well, he's got 2 bikes on the go, one hung up very tidily next door.
Yeah, he's got the Cervelo S3 hanging up on the wall from his front wheel and locked up for safety.
Yeah, it's an interesting contraption with the lock.
Yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued what he's done that for. I think it's because he's got quite a heavy-duty chain lock. So
carbon frame.
Yeah, so he's maybe trying to hold that lock off. But anyway, onto the bike that's on the turbo, and I believe that's a Scott foil. I may be wrong. Do correct me if that is so. And then he's got Zwift up on the screen, and we can see in the mirror he's also got a little workbench behind.
Yeah, it looks comprehensive.
And a little towel ready for his sessions. So
nice. And a sweat catcher. I reckon he gets hot in there.
Brilliant. And now here's one from JD Berger, and he is from Springfield in Missouri.
Now, the first thing that catches my eye is the little support dog.
Ah, it's very cute. And also cute, with their team jacket on.
And a neckerchief.
Very cool. Apparently they're sponsored by a brewery, so I think that is what the logo on the back there is. So he's got 2 bikes on a turbo there. I can't quite see which brands they are. But we do have an Ironman Boulder flag up, and I have noticed his Steve Prefontaine poster. I'm a big fan of Prefontaine, so.
And you can't miss all of those medals.
Very impressive.
Some collection.
Very impressive. Moving on, we have one here from Rob Musante, and well, This is pretty impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, his own treadmill folded up out the way, so you've got extra space at the moment. 2 bikes, one on the wall, one on turbo, a spare turbo in the corner as well. A boxing machine on the left-hand side. It's covering everything here.
Yeah, and numerous spare wheels, bags, very organised.
It looks like could even be some skis or something in that bag on the right, and some ski boots,
Yeah, he's putting us all to shame with his organisation here. So, yeah, we love seeing your GTN Pain Cave, so please do keep sending them in using the hashtag GTN Pain Cave over Twitter or over Facebook.
Well, that's it for this week's GTN show. If you haven't done so already, you can subscribe to GTN by just hitting on the globe.
And if you'd like to get hold of any of this snazzy GTN gear that me and Heather are wearing, and you can see in a lot of our videos, just click on the link for the shop. And as you've probably seen already, we're doing a series of how to train for your first triathlon. So if that is you, part 2 of that series is out now. So you can click on the link just below.
And if you're concentrating more just on your running at the moment and you want to run a fast half marathon, we've made a video with GCN's Dan Lloyd just here.